Hi, this is Ashio and welcome back to Echo. How did you like the first ending of the game? Had a bit of time to think back on it. I've had a lot of time to think back on it because it's been about a month since I last played this game, and I think it's time to have another look at a different route. So, haven't quite decided what I want to go with, but I don't know. Let's just go in, we'll skip ahead to the new stuff, and then we'll make our decisions when we get closer to it. Alright, Skip, I knew you'd be back. You all come back eventually. So we've met all these characters before, and before we went for TJ's route. And I think this is the kind of game where you pick a different route. It's entirely different. So yeah, we're at the theme park. And we had this situation where we were kind of hanging out. And we leaned on TJ before. Maybe... Oh no, we leaned on Cole before, didn't we actually? Let's lean on TJ this time. But I think, as this is how we kind of started the game, maybe this time we'll go with Cole. But we're going to lead on TJ, and then we'll make a different decision. TJ might be smaller, but he's definitely an easy guy to convince, especially if he thinks he's helping someone out. TJ, can I lean on you for a bit? What? Why? He looks a little uncomfortable. I'm tired, man. Okay. I lay my head on the crook of his neck, and I feel him tense up a little, but after a while he relaxes. There's some heat coming off his neck, and I'm pretty sure he's blushing. It's not too bad though. He might be slender, but his fur is pretty damn soft. The sounds of the clapping and fiddles start to drift away as the lack of sleep takes its toll. Yeah, there's a show on the stage. And then we have a nightmare, which is not a fun time. So we're gonna have the nightmare, get through that, and everything we've seen before. I think the major part of the game is where they all have a big argument at the lake, and you decide who it is you want to hang out with. So yeah, they have a big argument. So it's Flynn. He starts an argument. He's challenging everyone as to how their friend passed away back in the day. We have had sort of an answer in the last gameplay, so we have discovered a few things. Whether that will change on the different routes, I'm not sure, or whether the scenario is the same but we just see it from different angles. This is what we're going to find out. So before, yeah, we went with TJ, but I think this time, I think we're going to hang out with Cole. This is what we're going to do. I'm tired and I feel awful. I just don't have it in me to chase everyone down right now. Flynn's back off to Echo, and it looks like Leo went after TJ, but I can't imagine the Lynx wants all of us crowding around him right now. I sigh, rubbing my face before I sit down in the lawn chair next to Cole. Yeah, so Flynn accuses TJ of knowing something because TJ was the only person around when their friend kind of passed away. Yeah, and again, spoiler alert, if you watch the last gameplay, you kind of know a little bit more about that, but we're going to learn the more we go on. He looks over at me. This is Cole, slowly lowering what's definitely a joint from his mouth. What? I don't mind. I make a go-on gesture with my paw. Cole shakes his head though, pushing the dishevelled tube back into his front pocket. Nah, I always feel kinda like a dick when the other guy isn't into it. You want me to go then? He shakes his head with a quick flick of his horns. No man, I just do it when there's nothing else to do. Oh, yeah, so Cole, he smokes a lot of weed. There's a moment of silence, and I feel a little pressure to break it since I'm the one who interrupted his bake session. I actually tried it a few years ago. Cole looks surprised. Really? How was it? I shrug. Pretty bad. Was in a muffin, I think. Cole makes a face at that. Edibles, man. Yeah, well, I ended up eating one. I didn't feel anything for a while. Next thing I know, I'm face down on the floor and everyone's freaking out. Shit, that sucks. It was kind of funny, but I don't think I'll ever try it again. Cole pulls the joint back out of his pocket and holds it up. That's why you should use one of these. It's easier on the brain. Well, yeah, I guess I just don't like the idea of putting smoke into my lungs. Cole puts the joint back into his pocket. I get that. Again, there's a few seconds of silence, and I try to think of something to say, but Cole beats me to it. Crazy shit, right? I assume he's talking about what just happened, the big fight between all these long-term friends. Yeah, crazy. But you know how he is. He's regretting everything right now. Well, I guess I'd rather he wouldn't just say it in the first place. What he said to TJ, man, he picks on him a lot, but that was crossing a line. Cole scratches behind one of his horns and then rubs his nose. Well, yeah, I guess I never understood that either. Making fun of TJ is like making fun of a cloud. But Flynn doesn't mean it, usually. He likes TJ. I've noticed during the trip that Cole's been pretty defensive of Flynn, even though he's the butt of most of the lizard's jokes. I've seen Flynn trip Cole up and put him in several headlocks since I got here. You think getting older would change that, but I swear they roughhouse even more than they did before. So, you and him still seem pretty close. You guys hang out a lot? Yeah, a bit. Mostly because there isn't much else to do. He's got a friend in Peyton that he hangs out with sometimes too. So, what do you guys do? I know Flynn isn't into video games at all, and Carl probably doesn't care to go clubbing every other night. He shrugs. Sometimes we go fishing, maybe just drive around Peyton. Mostly I'm just hanging out at home though. Playing video games, watching movies, cybering with a chat box, you know, the usual. I grin. That's sad. I would have cybered with you if I'd known you didn't have anyone. I don't know, man. That thing compiles all the fetishes of the people it's talked to. It's got on my sexuality all kinds of fucked up. Oh yeah? Yeah, seems like no matter what I say to her, she's tied up in some warehouse blindfolded with a few missing limbs. Oh my god. You underestimate my abilities. Oh, and the gender swap that comes out of nowhere halfway through. Well, while you're not sexing up a robot, are you doing anything else? He chuckles. I can't exactly get around myself anymore. So I guess your parents decided against getting you a new car. Yeah, oh look at this. He leans over and pulls out his phone. I can't help but notice it's a top model brand, probably around $700. But he's not showing me the phone, instead he presses at the screen a few times and swipes through some pictures. I swear I see an image of Flynn with his pants down mooning at the camera. Cole swipes over it pretty quick though, and now I'm looking at the image of a brand new sedan. Except the front is neatly folded up around the pole of a stop sign. I recognise the sign. I'd actually seen it right outside the convenience store, still bent at a ridiculous angle. I guess the town didn't care enough to get it fixed. The pole itself is almost embedded into the middle of the hood. Holy shit. Cole chuckles and pinches the screen, zooming in. Yeah, dropped my phone, and when I came back up, this freaking pole's right in front of me. Really, Cole, why were you on your phone? I don't know, when I get to the town, I don't really think anyone's going to be on the road. I sigh, and then notice a big round spot on the right side of the windshield, spiderwebbed and smashed white. Whoa, dude, is that? Yep. Cole knocks on his head for effect. The hollow sound that it emits seems rather appropriate. You rely on that too much, and you really need to start wearing your seatbelt. The dude crashed and went into the windshield, but his horns saved him. Alright? He shrugs and put the phone back into his pocket before leaning back in the chair and closing his eyes. What's the point? To not die. It happens to everyone sooner or later. Why not get it out early if you can? He keeps his voice light under the heavy statement. I have no idea what to say to that, so I don't, but he breaks the silence again soon enough. So, how's PU? You seen Chelsea at all? Oh, the university. Sometimes I forget Cole went to Pueblo with me. It was only one semester, but we had a lot of fun. It's okay, haven't seen Chelsea at all though. It is a big school. Anyway, what's that project thing you're doing? It's just a news packet about Echo really, kind of about how it's falling apart. Ah, I've told him this already, but Cole never remembers much. Might centre it around the whole body and the mind thing that happened way back. Cole opens his eyes and looks at me. So, do you need like history stuff, like old books and records and stuff? Oh yeah, if it relates. Cole sits up straighter and grins. Well, why didn't you say so? We've got a ton of stuff in the crawl space from way back when. Yeah? What kind of stuff? Cole sets a hoof against one of the rocks circling the fire pit and starts rocking his chair back. Well, whatever my family kept over the years, that one guy, Cole snaps his fingers a few times. You know, the guy founded the place, James. Yeah, sure. He's like my great-great-great-great-great-grandfather or something. I think we still got some of that stuff from back in the day. My parents were thinking about setting up an old Echo Museum thing, but they never did. This might actually be useful to me. All I'd planned was to maybe look over some old newspapers or town records and be done with it. Actually seeing some old stuff up close could be pretty cool. That might be a good idea actually. Cole grins. Awesome. Always kind of wanted to look through that stuff, but the crawl space is creepy. Are you free tonight? For the first time, Cole actually looks excited. Oh wait, never mind. Flynn's taking me to a dentist appointment early in the morning. How about 11 tomorrow? I smile. Sounds like a plan. Sweet. Whoa. Cole gives an excited kick off the rock, and as the chair's tipping back, the back legs practically snap under his weight. He's sent slamming down on his rear, the chair a crumpled mess under his ass. I laugh, and of course I feel bad, but Cole just gets up with a sheepish smile, looking down at the broken pile. Well, Leo's gonna be pissed. Broke the chair. Dude is so laid back. I'm driving down the road alongside the lake. Cole's sitting next to me. He's in the chair that he's broke. I keep telling him to wear his seatbelt, but he won't. I turn down a road I don't remember. It goes straight down toward the lake. For some reason I can't stop. I brace myself for impact, but I hardly feel anything. We just glide into the lake. I start trying to take off the seatbelt, but it's stuck. I look over at Cole, and he smiles before opening his door. Water rushes in, and he starts to step out. Soon the water is over my head, and it doesn't matter that I'm an otter. Or you gonna drown. That's no good. So that's our introduction. That was Monday. I think we can do Tuesday as well. Let's make this a bit of an introduction to Cole's story. Turns out it was a good idea to hang out with Cole today. After texting back and forth with Leo, I learned that he's actually planning a birthday party for the ram. It's a little weird since Cole's birthday isn't for another month, but I guess it's just an excuse to have a party. Leo tells me to keep Cole distracted for the day while they go shopping for decorations and gifts. He also tells me he'll get my gift for Cole, which is fine with me. TJ's pretty bummed though, considering it throws off his hiking plans, but Jenna promises him they'll at least hike half the trail. I want to talk to him, but he's acting pretty cold toward me, probably because I'm bailing on my promise to go with him. Yeah, those hikes were not fun. I drive to Carl's house because it's pretty far separated from the rest of Echo, up against the foothills of the Casa Demonio mountain range. It'll probably take me 15 minutes to get up there, and there's no way in hell I'm doing that in this heat, uphill when I've got a car. The main reason it's separated like this is because Cole's house is a mansion. Cole's family is loaded, a legacy that's followed them ever since Cole's great-great-whatever struck it rich over 100 years ago, so Cole's family is possibly linked to what happened in the mine. Interesting. James Hendricks eventually went on to start an ice cream business, which at this point had spread out over most of the western half of the country. Cole's mum is the CEO, I think. Actually, now I'm thinking about it, I should probably get some shots of the mansion, considering its role in the town's history. Most of the old mansion has been demolished at this point, but I think parts of it are still from the original structure. Probably best to ask first though. Yeah, don't just take photos of people's houses without asking. I walk up to the front door and ring the doorbell, listening to the fancy chime inside. I wait for about a minute, starting to wonder if Cole's asleep or just high off his ass, when I hear some voices from behind the house. I'm definitely recognising the crackly timbre of Cole's voice, along with the high tenor of Flynn's. I head around the house, stepping carefully through the desert landscaping. I walk into the backyard. Could you want to make out with him? No, because you like to make things weird. I just wanted to be relaxed. That's when Cole notices me as I round the corner, clutching my camera bag to my side. He's leaning over a bush with a giant set of clippers, while Flynn lounges up against the wall watching him. Well, Chase. What did we just walk in on? Cole's ears perk and he grins. Sorry, Flynn. Cole rolls his big head at the lizard. Flynn was supposed to be watching for you. Flynn doesn't look at me right away, instead choosing to pull the toothpick he's chewing on out of his muzzle to look at it. He's still embarrassed about yesterday. Good. That's okay. Wasn't hard to hear you guys from out the front. Yeah, just doing some yard work, obviously. He rubs behind his head. Promised my parents I'd get this done before they got back. Cole starts snipping at the bush again. He's unusually sharp right now, I'm guessing because he hasn't had anything to smoke. Either way, it's jarring to see him so animated. Well, looks like you're doing a good job. Oh, he's only moving this fast because he wants to hang out with you, Chase? Even though the sentence is technically being said to me, I feel like Flynn's directing it at Cole. Cole furrows his brow. Chase, you can go inside if you want, the back is open. I think that's a good idea because it's clear now that I've walked in on an argument. You should have seen him a few minutes ago. It was like he had a girlfriend coming over. Cole sighs loudly and his snips start to get a bit more violent. No, I'm just glad to have some company that isn't only you, Flynn. Flynn looks annoyed, and that annoys me. You really didn't have the right to be frustrated with everyone after yesterday. Really, always seemed to be enough for you in the past. Flynn makes a kissy face. I have no idea if this one is one of their inside jokes or not. Cole stops sniffing for a second and then starts up again more slowly. Well, you know, lizards can be fun, but they don't have all the parts that I like, if you know what I mean. Cole smirks sideways at Flynn. Flynn sneers back, and though I've decided that they're still joking, there's definitely a growing tension between them. What you saying there, Cole? Cole starts snipping and plants the points of the clippers into the ground, leaning on it as he turns to face Flynn. What I'm saying is that you've got no... Before Cole could finish his sentence, Flynn turns to the right, away from him. This also brings his fat tail around to slam into Cole's crotch with a whap that makes me cringe. Damn, Cole jumps, then squeaks before toppling to the ground. He just gave him a nut shot. Aw man, my nuts. Yeah, definitely wish I had those, all dangly and vulnerable and shit anyway. I'll leave you two sluts alone. Flynn sticks the toothpick back into his muzzle, and I have to consciously try not to cover my crotch while he walks by me. He hasn't looked at me the whole time. Once Flynn's gone, I sidle up to Cole, who's still curled up on the ground, holding himself while he mutters under his breath. You okay? Fuck no. Okay. There's not really anything I can do, so I rub his shoulder with a toe comfortingly, and he freezes up as I do, looking at my foot. I'm okay though. He gets himself into a sitting position before he gets up awkwardly, standing bow-legged. I forgot how much Flynn likes to hit people in the nuts. I'll get him back. It still hurts him if you hit hard enough. As he stands there, doubled over with his paws on his knees, I look around. Cole's house has actual grass in the back, which is rare in Echo. Most people either xeriscape or just let the sagebrush take over. Another rarity are the two tall trees on either side of the yard, and that's when I notice how empty one of them looks. Hey, where'd the treehouse go? Cole follows my gaze. Oh yeah, my dad took it down a few years ago. It was falling apart. His dad also built the treehouse. I can remember hanging out up there, playing on our portable game consoles with a fan at full blast. Even then, it was still almost too hot to hang out up there. I walk up to the base of the tree and put my hand against the trunk, grinning. Man, remember all the shit we did up here? Cole shuffles up next to me, still bow-legged, and grins too. Yeah, good times. I think about climbing it, but I notice that the branch we used to use as a foothold has been cut off. Your dad ruined this thing, man. Cole scrapes at the spot where the branch used to be with a hoof. Yeah, I guess it made the mowing harder, and we didn't use it anymore, so we just cut it off. I can see Cole's looking for a way up too, and soon enough his eyes settle on a branch just above his head. I don't know if... Cole's already jumping to grab onto the branch with both paws. It doesn't look very sturdy. Dude, it's gonna break. So, I'm fucking fat, I'll bounce. I'm about to tell him again that the branch is definitely gonna break when I notice his shirt riding up all the way over his round belly. It's not like he's a bag of lard though, it's a controlled type of gut, held tight with the muscles underneath, putting it in as he flexes. I mean, by that image, he's not that fat. He notices me staring right away and kicks out at me playfully. Pervert, first my moobs, now this. I jump back and he tries to follow me with the bigger swing of his legs, and that's when the branch snaps loudly, as predicted. Coles goes down once again, landing squarely on his back. Damn, that's gonna hurt. I cover my face instinctively, but I still hear the hollow thud, followed by the whoosh of breath going out of his lungs. Slowly I lower my paws and find the chubby ram rolling back and forth on the ground, eyes wide as his mouth hangs open. A distant memory comes to mind of a time when we were both 10 and Cole was showing me a trick with his new bike ramp. The handlebars ended up in his gut when he landed, and he spent the following minute rolling around on the ground, just like this. Good times. Shit. I suck in air through my teeth and kneel next to him again, patting him uselessly. After a few seconds of hesitation, I reach over and grab the front of the waistband of his shorts and put up on it. Even though he's completely deflated, he looks at me with a bizarre expression and swats at my paw, giving a few breathless snorts as he tries to laugh. Hey, it's supposed to help you breathe. I've seen the coaches do it at school. I'm realising that Cole's way too heavy to arch up like that, so I give up and end up just petting his stomach, wishing I could help somehow. Just stretch out. His breath is already coming back, but he follows my instruction anyway, and we sit there for a while, the silence punctuated by his heavy breathing. I start to laugh. Jesus Christ, Cole, can you go one day without hurting yourself? He chuckles too, his belly shaking under my paw. Dude could be a wrestler. If he can take punishment like that, he should be a wrestler. Now you know why I don't go outside. Ah. He slumps back for a while, taking in deep breaths before lifting his head again. He looks down his chest at my paw and grins. Seems like you can't keep your paws off me though. I move my paw, letting him pull down his shirt as he grunts and sits up. How about I just let you suffocate next time? Almost did, laughing while I couldn't breathe. I thought you were trying to grab my dick. I put my paws onto my hips. Is that 'cause I'm gay? Might be. Carl grabs the branch that had broken off the tree and quirks up the corner of his mouth. Well, Dad's not going to be happy about that. Who cares? It's just a branch. You know my dad. He gets up and tosses the branch over the fence into the desert and then turns back to me. So, now that it feels like the Lucha fucking Lobo just gave me the Quebradora Conquilo, I think I'm done for the day. I cannot speak Spanish. I'm assuming that's what that was. Want to work on your project now? I'd honestly just rather hang out here with Cole, but the sun's enough to put a damper on that. Okay, we're going in. Cole's house is like a labyrinth. I think he once told me that he has over 30 rooms, which is fucking insane. The living room is about 5 times larger than the one in my parents' house, and it's hard to miss what looks like a 100-inch flat-screen TV against the wall. According to Cole, the first mansion was even bigger though. After getting a drink, he leads me straight downstairs to the basement. Down the hallway, we pass a small home theatre, what looks like an entertainment room with a bar, and a small gym. The quick glance I get shows at least 10 fitness contraptions. After that, things get a little bit more dingy, and I can see how portions of the foundation could be decades old. Finally, at the end of the hall, Cole opens a door, and I can see from the ceiling that it's right under the stairs we came down on. Cole waves his paw around and finally grasps something before putting down. An old light bulb comes on, and I see there's a little door with a small latch on it. He opens it, and I'm greeted with a musty smell as Cole slides through the opening. I follow tentatively, making sure I'm not walking into any cobwebs. Are there a lot of spiders down here? Yeah, Chase does not like spiders. I don't think so. We sprayed it a few weeks ago. It's extremely dark, and I hear Cole grunting next to me. Wow, there's a floodlight here somewhere? Ah, here. That's it, turn it on. Like everything else in the house, it's big for a crawl space. Pillars sprout from the ground in 2 rows that stretch back almost into darkness. The ground is covered in a tarp, and I see dozens of plastic bins lining the walls. This is a lot of shit. Yeah, it's a few generations worth of shit. I walk over the tarp to look into one of the bins, but all I can see is clumps of cloth and towel through the cloudy plastic. Cole walks past me straight toward the back of the crawl space, his big hooves clopping along loudly. I actually helped sort through all of this stuff last year, so I think I know where it is. I follow him, but it's hard to see in the darkness. Should we get a flashlight? Nah, it's only in 2 tubs I think. We'll just pull it to the front. I stand off to the side as I watch him push bins around, looking at labels on top. I look over one of them and see Home Movies written on it, and it's filled with cassettes. Oh, don't remind me. I look up and see that Cole's noticed me staring at the bin. What? Cole grunts as he lifts up a bin and drops it pretty carelessly onto the floor. I'm pretty sure I hear something break. Mum had me help her convert all of that into digital. It took all fucking year. Wow. Yeah, it's in the cloud now. You're actually in a lot of those videos. Oh, really? Yeah, birthday parties and shit. Of course I would be. Cole's dad practically had a video camera glued to his eye back in the day. I used to hang out with Cole almost as much as I did with Leo once we started going out. I even went to their family vacation a few times. But then me going out with Leo changed things. Looking back, I think Cole was kind of unhappy with it. We can watch a few once we're done here if you want. Oh, sure. That sounds like an old person thing to do, but I'm curious. Found it. Cole slides out 2 plastic bins and I see history written on the top. Help me carry one. Cole lifts up the top one and starts waddling back to the front. I bend over and lift the second, and I'm surprised at how fucking heavy it is. I'm worried I'm not even going to get it off the ground for a few seconds, but I manage after a while. If Cole's bin is as heavy as mine, then he's a fucking beast at being able to lift and carry it like that. I stagger after him, almost certain that I'm going to go head first into a wall. Once we make it back near the stairs, I bend over to set down my bin, and that's when I see a massive spider sitting on the lid. It takes about half a second for me to recognise the black shape and spindly legs. Oh fuck! I scream and drop the bin, and before I know it I'm halfway back from where we came, panting and shivering. Holy shit, what happened? I tremble and try to steady my voice. Spider. What? You're still scared of those? Man, for a second I thought my sister came home and then got murdered. You told me there weren't any? I didn't say it. I just said we sprayed. Get rid of it. At this point I shuffled a little closer back to the light and I can see Cole grinning as he bends over to look at the lid of the bin. Wow, it's got babies on its back. My body gives a violent involuntary spasm as I shake my paws like a fucking girl. Stop it. He glances up at me with that stupid smile still on his face. Wow, that was gay, man. But seriously, it's got a bunch of tiny babies on the back. I think it's a wolf spider. I swear, I'm gonna pass the head out if he doesn't stop talking. I cover my face. If you got like a real phobia, that's some bad shit. Please. Alright. I didn't know you were that scared of him. You should probably get that checked out. Considering that I'd almost crashed my car into the garage of my parents' house when a spider crawled out of the AC, he was probably right. Just kill it. Why would I do that? I watch as he tilts the bin sideways. It's not going to hurt anyone? I want to tell him that the babies are only going to grow into 100 more giant wolf spiders. But I realise I'll just come off as a bloodthirsty arsehole, so I bite my lip as I watch the black spot skitter off into the darkness. I walk back toward Cole, hugging my shoulders as I try to control the chills running through me. Now I'm going to be paranoid the whole time that it's going to come back out to get me. Cole rubs my back when I stand next to him. You know, they actually clean up a lot of the other bugs that get into the house. Yeah, well, I'd rather be covered in ants than spiders. It's clear he's trying not to laugh at me as he starts popping the lid off his bin. On the top are a few framed pictures, and under those are a few more cardboard boxes. I release the latches on the other bin, keeping my eye out for any black spots that might jump out at me. This one is filled with bundles wrapped in cloth or paper. Cole drags his bin to the steps so that he can sit on them, and I follow suit. So, how do you think you'll use this stuff? Well, I unwrap a smaller bundle and look at the gold pocket watch underneath. Wow, I'm not sure. Depends on what we find. I might film a few things. There's a paper tag attached to the chain with Robert Hendricks written on it. Who's this? Cole gives it a glance. No idea. Probably a great uncle or something. I wrap the pocket watch and reach back into the bin to pull out the next item. There's something really cool about old stuff. My mind wanders to who might have made it, who bought it, and how much shit it must have seen. History is my first choice to major in, but Dad put a stop to that pretty quick. I put out various other things, dolls, a pipe, coins, and another pocket watch. I feel like this is worth a lot of money. Why don't they sell it? Probably, but you know, it's family stuff, and I still think they want to do the museum. He gives an awkward cough. Sides, we've already got a lot of money. He's got the binder open, looking at black and white photos behind the plastic. Hey, this is him, right? He points at a picture of a very dignified looking ram, thumbs in his vest, wearing one of those big top hats. A fox stands next to him in a similar pose. I can see a piece of yellow paper set behind the photo and tug it out. James Hendricks, yeah, definitely him. And John Begay, that's Jenna's last name. Cole's phone starts buzzing and he grunts as he leans back to pull it out of his pocket. Hey Mum, helping Chase with his project? No, of course not. I look over at him, but he gets up and clops back up the steps. Looking back down at the picture, I wonder if it's just coincidence, but I don't think so. Jenna's family has been in Echo since the beginning too, so this guy definitely has to be a relative of some kind. I take a picture of the photograph with my phone. I'll show it to Jenna later and ask if she knows anything about it. To do that without a car? Cole raises his voice, so I look back up the steps, wondering if I should close the door. Hearing him angry like that didn't feel right. His parents were always hard on him, but I guess they had their reasons. I spend the next 20 minutes shuffling through the bins, trying to be careful not to break anything. I decide I have enough and put the lids back on the bins, lining the stuff I picked out along one of the steps, since I don't have anywhere else to put them. By the time I head back into the actual basement, Cole's gone. As I approach Cole's room, I smell it before I even open the door. He's reclined on his bed, an arm thrown over his face, the big window above him open. Clothes are scattered all over the floor, along with a few empty water bottles and bowls. Every inch of the walls are covered with posters like I remember, along with a few on the ceiling. Bookcases line the opposite wall, filled to the brim with comics and toys. He raises up an arm as I walk in and smiles. Sorry about the mess, dude. It's hard to keep everything clean when my parents aren't here to yell at me about it. The lazy, crackly sound in his voice has returned full force. His eyes are distant. Wow, yeah, he's kind of blazed up. You okay? He grins toothily. Dude, I'm more than okay. Since there's nowhere else to sit, I end up sitting down on the foot of his bed. Do they let you smoke in here? The smell in his room is layered and old, like the walls have been blanketed in the smell several times before. They gave up trying to stop me. Better to be in the house rather than getting caught by some cops outside. They just made me promise that I wouldn't ever try something harder. Well, good thing they don't know I've already tried, Dick. He puts a lot of emphasis on the K, as the bad joke seems to just dribble out of his muzzle. I lean back on the bed, and that's when I notice his flat screen. It's just a 48 inches on. I see a list of video files displayed on it. What you watching? Oh. Cole grunts as he sits up and reaches for a game controller. Our old home movies. I was going to show you some, you know. How about a birthday? Sure. He scrolls down the list and stops when Cole's 8th is highlighted and presses play. The backyard I was in an hour earlier pops up on the screen. Now, a long table sits in the middle of the lawn along with a massive bounce house. And not just any bounce house, but a giant 2-story one that you'd find at a state fair. The video is time-stamped April 19th, 2002. Fuck, I remember this. There are about 20 kids, mostly in the bounce house, and most of whom I've forgotten. Right now though, the camera's zooming in on an 8-year-old Cole. He's messing with a giant Nerf gun, the kind that no kid ever gets because they're so damn expensive. And that's when 8-year-old me enters the picture, holding a much smaller Nerf gun. His parents gave everyone a goodie bag that day. It had toys in it that I might not have been able to get on my own birthday. My kid self puts the gun to Cole's head and pulls the trigger, the dart bouncing off one of his horns. I specifically remember that moment. I thought the suction end of the dart was going to stick, but of course it didn't. The audio is filled with a deep chuckle. Cole's dad behind the camera. You were a dick back then. What? I was 8. Still, you blew out my candles. Oh yeah. He got so mad about that. I start to settle back and smile. It's been a long time since I've watched a home movie, and I've forgotten how nice it is to have this method of looking back. Kinda like when I get stuck on scrolling through all the old images on my phone. My younger self is trying to help Cole with the gun, lifting up the barrel and looking into the opening. Careful. Kid Chase pulls his head back with a jolt as Cole's dad yells and then mutters behind the camera. Let's see how long it takes him to trick Cole into trading with him. Cole's dad sounds exasperated but good-natured. It still makes me blush a bit, now knowing how aware Jim was of my taking advantage of his son. Our struggles with the Nerf gun get the attention of another kid though. My breath catches in my throat as Sydney bounces into frame. I can feel Cole tensing up next to me too, and he starts to lean for the game controller. And here comes the Mormon boy. The disgust in Cole's dad's voice shocks me, and I hear Cole whisper a curse next to me as he fumbles for the controller. Sydney reaches out and pulls the gun away from Cole as he looks over it, grinning. Yeah, so you'll be aware if you see in the other gameplays that Sydney is a kid who passed away. Hey. Suddenly, the screen switches back to the file menu, and we both sit there in silence for a few seconds. Sorry, I guess I forgot that. Of course Sydney was going to be at the party, but I'd honestly forgotten too. If there was any way to perfectly ruin the mood, that had been it. I glance over at Cole and see him looking down at the gamepad, ears lowered, the insides red. Hey, it's okay, I mean, maybe it's a good thing to watch. My dad, I didn't know he'd say that. I'd rather not find out what else he said. Oh yeah. I look around, trying to find something, anything to distract us from what just happened. My eyes fall on the shelves holding Cole's game library. Wanna play a game? It's just like old times, as we co-op through Winter Castle. The fact that he still has his old save files from when he was in college makes it all the more nostalgic. I get so into it that it gets dark outside without me even knowing, and pretty soon I'm looking out at the purple sky reluctantly. It's about time I go back. Cole sighs and pauses the game before stretching and dropping the controller onto his bed. Oh, come on, you sure you can't stick around? I don't know, I don't have any clothes or a toothbrush. We can walk over and get them. Cole seems pretty determined to make me stay, and there's no reason why I can't, so I relent. Okay, yeah, could be fun. Yes. Cole looks happy and almost relieved. It'll be just like old times. he rolls to his hooves. And speaking of old times, let's make a pizza. I've suddenly caught Cole's enthusiasm. Hell yeah, pizza time. We go into the massive kitchen and put a big frozen pizza from the fridge, and while it bakes, we sit at the counter and talk. At this point, the haze of the pot has lifted from Cole's face, and he's animated and excited again, swivelling on one of the counter stools. For the first time in almost 10 years, I'm giddy and excited in the way you can only get when you're at a sleepover. That makes it a little jarring when he pulls out some beers, but I'm happy to have a few, and we guzzle them down as we talk about past sleepovers. Pretty soon, our reminiscing drifts into the present, and that's when the conversation slows a bit, Cole having less to say. I try to change the subject and tell him that he should come back to school. He just smiles and shakes his head. So, they're actually hitting it off quite nicely, and it's actually taking Cole off the drugs. Alright, 3 hours later, we're both laying back on Cole's bed, head to toe, having just watched a shitty action movie. We didn't end up going out to get my stuff, so I'm just in my boxers, pleasantly drowsy and buzzed. I hear Cole snuffle and look down my chest at him. What's up? He looks over at me and shrugs. Nothing, just thinking. What about? During our past sleepovers, Cole had always been afraid to be the last to fall asleep. He tried to keep me up by talking, rolling over on top of me, and sometimes just by throwing shit at me. I wonder if that's what he's doing now. I don't know, man. Life. That's a lot to think about. Not for me. I look over at him again. He's holding one paw up, looking through his fingers at the ceiling fan. You're just figuring things out. Cole lets his arm flop back down over his head, blowing out a sigh. I'm not figuring things out, man. I don't say anything. It's cool that he's reaching out to me, but I'm not sure I can offer any advice that he hasn't heard before. I just wish I could be doing something. I'll think for a moment. You've done a lot more than some people I know. I mean, your art's great, you did go to school even if you dropped out, and you were working while you could. There are a lot of people out there who can't even say that. Cole laughs, but it's a sad kind of laugh. Try saying it to my mum. She's always got something to do, always wants to do something. I just don't feel that. He turns his head toward me. I wish I did, Chase, but I can't. His voice catches in his throat, and I shrink a bit into the bed and pretend not to notice. The beer we've had is definitely partly to blame for this. He turns his head toward the wall though, and I'm guiltily relieved that when he talks again, his voice is under control. I just wish it wasn't such a goddamn chore for me to just go outside, you know? I didn't know, but I nod anyway, even if he can't see. He's waiting for me to say something though, so I clear my throat. You got a problem, or it's fine. If the guy's got like a confidence issue or something where he doesn't feel like he can go outside, or like a depression or something, it's fine. It's fine. You know, Cole, some people just like that. He looks down at me, but he doesn't say anything. If it's so hard to get out, then just don't. People figure things out eventually, and if you always want to stay at home, then do that. Just try to figure out a way to sustain yourself. That's pretty much the gist of what my therapist told me. Do what makes you happy. He watches me for a few seconds. So, is all the props you had taken care of now? I mean, I hope so. We lay in silence for a little while, before I finally speak up. Listen, I'll probably come back a few times this week, to work with the history stuff. Well, why don't we go out and do something? That'd be nice. I grin, glad at making Cole feel better. Cool, let's plan on it. Cole puts his paws behind his head and smiles. It's cool that you're here, Chase. It's cool to be here. And not just because it's nice to have someone to talk to. Oh, no, the house is fucking haunted. What? Don't end the conversation there. Ah! I don't remember falling asleep, but it's at that moment something wakes me up. I jolt and lay there, trying to remember where I am. Cole's house, that's right. I stare at the ceiling, wondering what time it is. I don't bother to look at my phone though, because I'm already starting to fall back asleep. A scraping noise from beneath me makes me jump, and I prop myself up from my elbows listening. Looking over, I see Cole staring at the ceiling, eyes wide. Cole? I whisper it, and I'm not sure why. He jumps and looks at me confused, like he'd just woken up. Huh? You okay? Yeah, what's wrong? I thought I heard something? His floppy ears perk up. I don't. Then his eyes widen. Although I didn't hear anything right then, he definitely did. You hear it? Yeah, like a scraping noise? I told you about it. Yeah. He looks happy. Yeah, so I'm not fucking crazy. We both sit there and listen for a while, but it sounds like it stopped. Wanna go see what? Suddenly his eyes widen and his muzzle drops open in shock. I stare back. What? Did you fucking hear that? I listen, feeling my heartbeat pick up now that Cole looks fucking terrified, but I don't hear anything. What? A voice. The fur raises up all over my body as I listen. But nothing. Cole definitely seems convinced though, so I listen harder. I just start to make out what might be a voice when Cole sits up next to me and gets out of bed. I feel myself start to panic. Did some crazy hobo just break into the house? Cole gets off the couch. Come on. What? What the fuck are you gonna do? Let's call the cops. No, let's make sure first. This has happened before. What? What do you mean? He puts the finger up to his lips. Grabs something. What? I follow Cole out into the kitchen and he starts rummaging through the drawers. I follow him, hugging my shoulders, feeling a lot colder right now. With the sound of metal sliding against metal, Cole pulls out a giant steak knife. What the fuck? Dude, I've been hearing this shit for the past month and I've been too scared to go down there, but now with you here. He flashes me a smile. I'm gonna find out what the fuck this thing is. Here. He reaches into a spot between the fridge and wall and pulls out a broom before sticking it out to me. I take it slowly. What the hell am I supposed to do with this thing? Hit him, come on. Cole starts down the stairs and I follow behind, holding the broomstick in front of me like a sword. I've never had to hit anyone with a stick before. I've got no idea what I'm doing. Once we get to the small door leading down the crawl space, Cole pauses and we both listen. It's silent for a while, then... Shit. Cole looks at me like I'm crazy, not reacting to the noise at all. Shh, quiet. He leans down, a paw on the handle. Looking back at me, he signals me with his eyes to be ready. I grip onto the broom like a lifeline as I wait for him to swing the door open, and when he does... Darkness. Shit. So whatever's down here is just slinking around in complete darkness? Hey. Cole says it unconvincingly, the fear clear in his voice. Then, after looking back at me, fuck it. He jumps down into the crawl space, disappearing into the dark. Cole! I stumble up to the edge of the steps, trying to squint into the black. I hear Cole to the right, rustling around and cursing. And that's when light floods the crawl space. I quickly wobble down the steps, knowing that if whatever is down there is going to try to escape, it'd be running right into me. Finally, I have a moment to catch my breath, standing several feet behind Cole, as I look around, broom at the ready. There's nothing here, what the fuck? Sure enough, the crawl space looks empty. There aren't many places to hide either. What the hell's going on here, Cole? But he doesn't answer me. He's staring at the bins. Did you put the bins back? I look down, and the bins are gone. I look back at where they were originally, and sure enough, they're neatly stacked right where we found them. I honestly don't remember. Did I move them back? Maybe. It would be something I might do. I'd try it, but I can't remember. Maybe. Dude, come on. I really don't remember. Cole walks further toward the back, ears perked, looking left and right as he clutches his knife. I start to follow, and that's when I notice something at the left of my vision on the ground. Looking down, I see something fat and hairy ambling slowly over the top. A giant fucking tarantula. The following few moments are a blur, but the next thing I know, I'm going up the stairs on my feet and paws, grabbing at the doorframe to pull myself up. Chase, what happened? I can hear him running up behind me, so I turn to warn him. Spider! The breath keeps catching in my throat, but I think I'm hyperventilating. I'm still clutching at the doorframe as Cole follows up behind me, his eyes wide. Oh, come on, Chase, this is crazy. No, a blonde. No fucking way. Now he looks excited, and he turns back into the crawl space. I feel numb right now. This is all too much to handle. What the fuck's even going on? Which way? Shakily, I point toward where the spider was crawling. Cole squints, and then walks down the steps looking around. Careful. If it was really a blonde, there's not much to worry about. I hear they're actually pretty gentle. I gulp and don't say anything. My head is pounding and buzzing, which for some reason doesn't exactly feel like it has anything to do with the adrenaline rush. It's more like a bad headache. Carl looks around a little while longer, while I focus on the steps, making sure nothing starts crawling up them. I don't even care about the possible hobo anymore. Finally, Cole comes back, looking confused. Well, there's nothing there. You know, sometimes I see shit when I'm really tired. You want to go back upstairs? There's nothing there. It can't be happening again. So that was spooky shit. We've made it to Wednesday, and that is what we're going to check out in the next episode. This is Osho signing off, and hopefully I will see you next time.